Hello, Lettermen Row watchers, readers. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. This is another episode of Birminology, brought to you by Lettermen Row. We are in Hopewell, Virginia, the home of TreVeyon Henderson, the country's #1 ranked running back according to 247 Sports. TreVeyon, thanks for taking some time on a busy school day. I know how important the school stuff is to you to talk to us. Let's just dive into you, okay? Yeah. A lot of fans out there are somewhat unfamiliar with you because you're not a guy that makes a big spectacle of your recruitment.
Yeah.
Your coach, Ricky Irby, told me to make sure we're here today between this time and 1 o'clock because you got to get back to class.
Yeah.
How do you balance the person that you want to be, the person that has to worry about a 4.0 grade point average, worry about getting to class on time, with all this attention that's coming to you now because of football and sort of the push, I guess, from people to make a big to-do about you?
So I just worry about like my schoolwork and stuff before I worry about all the recruiting and stuff like that. I get texts during the day.
Yeah.
When I get time, I hit them back, but like school comes before that.
Is there a preferred subject? What do you like to study in school?
I study every subject, but I'll mainly say right now, math. It's pretty hard, so I study it every day.
What is math is a broad-reaching topic. So what is your preferred math? Are you in algebra? Do you like extended math? Like calculus is math, right? Right?
Yeah, I'm in pre-calc right now.
I failed pre-calc in high school. That is not a joke.
Yeah.
Like, I never failed a class until that one. So, no big deal. I'm just revealing some of my pain, my inner pain. So you're getting all these text messages, right? Coaches, teammates, players around the state of Virginia who want you to go visit somewhere with them this weekend or next.
Yeah.
Is there a moment yet, or has there been a moment yet where you're like, you know what? I'm turning this off. I'm shutting down the phone. Are you changing the phone number? Like, how do you balance it? How do you control all of this outside noise?
Yeah, sometimes it do get to the point where it can be a little too hectic.
Yeah.
So I think I manage it pretty good, like by not doing a lot of interviews and stuff. I do interviews every once in a while, but I think I manage it pretty good overall.
But it's starting to take off to a point now, I think, where you'll notice, especially as the summer months come up, where you're on the road more often. People will be doing this more often, where they just pop in. Is there a moment for you when you're like, you know what, I want to have this over with by this time so that I can focus on senior season or focus on this, that, or the other thing?
Yeah, so I plan on committing like late summer, that way I don't go into my senior season overwhelmed.
Right.
I plan on dropping my top schools probably like next month or in a couple months after I take a couple more visits, because that's one thing that can get a little too hectic, like all these schools trying to get me to come down there.
Like come visit, and you're not really interested in school B, but it's hard to say no thanks, right? I mean, it's
always good just to go down to a school and just see what it's like, get a feeling.
One of the schools that you have not been to yet, but is obviously recruiting you aggressively, which is why we're here, is Ohio State.
Yeah.
You're expected to visit Ohio State in April, the weekend of the Ohio State spring game. How has the relationship developed with Ryan Day, with Tony Alford, Al Washington? How has that got to this point, I guess? Because, again, for someone who's not been there, what do you know about Ohio State? What do you like? Why are you excited about the Buckeyes?
So I grew up liking Ohio State, the Buckeyes. Back when they had Ezekiel Elliott, I was a big fan of him. So, like, when I first met Coach Alford, I didn't know him that much.
Yeah.
So I thought he was just like every other coach, just telling me lies and stuff. But, like, once I got to, like, actually get to meet him, he started texting me, like, every day. We started building a tight relationship, closer bond. And, like, he tell me a lot of stuff. And, like, I realized he probably realer than most of these coaches out here. Like, he texts me every day, probably every evening, afternoon. Like, we text all day for real.
There was a moment in Ezekiel Elliott's recruitment where he was being recruited pretty hard by Alabama to play defensive back.
Oh, yeah.
And Ohio State was obviously recruiting him as a running back. Turned out okay for him and the Buckeyes, I guess. They won a national championship, and he was a top 5 pick, and turned out okay for Alabama, too. They still went and got somebody else to be a 5-star defensive back. There are schools that are recruiting you as a defensive player.
Yeah.
Which sounds, I guess, crazy if anyone's ever seen your highlight tape. If you've not seen TreVeyon's tape, go to Huddle and search for it because it's one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever see. But how do you feel about that? Like, I mean, it's still flattering to hear from schools that want you to play anywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
But is it an automatic, like, no thanks, I'm not playing defense? Or is there any part of you that's like, you know what, maybe I could be a defensive back?
Yeah, so it's like a maybe for real. But, like, I'm really focused on running back. I'm not really focused on defensive back anymore. Yeah. So.
Do you like hitting people?
Yeah, I love hitting people, especially my freshman and sophomore year. Yeah, I love hitting people. But
is that why are you constantly running away from people on offense then? Shouldn't you just bowl them over?
Yeah, sometimes I get to the point where I just do that. But
how much of what you do on the football field is learned versus what's natural? Like, I don't have the ability to walk from my kitchen to my bathroom without tripping over my feet.
Yeah.
So how do you, on a football field, do the things that you do? Is it, like I said, is it learned? Is it something you've been trained to do? Or is it just like, hey, I picked up a football and this is what I can do?
Yeah, so I'll say it all came natural for real. Like, my first year playing football, tackle football, I scored like 20 touchdowns at running back and over 1,000 yards. So I've been doing that ever since until like middle school. That's when I started playing more of a defense. But like after my sophomore year, that's when I started working on. After my freshman year, that's when I started working on running back more. I was working on with my brother, who's transferring from Indiana, and he's been getting me better. And then I went down to Michigan. After my sophomore year, we did some drills for running back. Yeah. And it helped me out a lot for my junior season, before my junior season.
How has Ronnie's recruitment and his experience at Indiana, how has that changed your perception of recruiting? I mean, you've seen from the outside the opportunity to what happens in this process, and you've seen now from his experience at Indiana how it can go when you're on campus. Like, what have you learned, I guess, from watching that?
Just being able to see like how the recruiting process is at an early age before I went through it, it helped me out a lot until this day. Like, I see now that like back then, I see that like most coaches, everything they tell you might not be true and things like that. So it helped me out a lot till this day.
Is it hard though? I mean, if you're going to a process and your thought is, I have to have a guard up because this may not be right. This may be BS.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? I mean, is it just sit down with Coach Irby or someone else? I mean, who's walking you through this quagmire of information?
You just got to do your research nowadays, for real. Like I think like most recruits, they don't do their research on school. I think they just commit to a school for the name, but you really got to do the research on the school, the coaches, and think about the education side of it, not just football, about like what you want to major in life after football, because you can't play football forever.
Right. I couldn't play at all. What, talking about visits coming up, you have a lot of them on the docket if you want to make a decision by the end of the summer. Aside from Ohio State, there's a trip to North Carolina coming next weekend. Tar Heels have sort of popped up as a national story in the last few weeks because they've had a good run on the recruiting trail. One of their top targets is Evan Pryor, a running back that Ohio State's recruiting.
Yeah.
Ohio State has told you, they've told Donovan Edwards, they've told Evan Pryor, they've told all the other running backs in the country they would be okay taking 2 in the class of 2021 if they had to.
Yeah.
What do you think about that concept? I mean, obviously you can see a depth chart and see that there's a number they need to have on the roster.
Yeah.
But is that a detriment for you? Do you care if there's another running back in your class? Would you prefer there not be, et cetera?
It all depends on the depth chart. You got to look at the depth chart, and you got to look at, I look at, how many carries does each running back get. Right. But I don't mind competing for a spot. I'm a big competitor. I don't mind competing for a spot.
And you get 13 carries a game in high school, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like when you go to college, you're not saying, I need 25, 30 carries a game, because you still, the goal is to play beyond college.
Yeah.
And the fresher you stay, the better is, or does it, do you think that you need numbers to get there?
Back then, schools used to tell me, we need a running back who can take 30 carries a game. Nah,
Like,
I don't
no,
want
thank
to.
you.
I don't want to
No.
get beat up in college. I'm trying to make it to the NFL.
Right. Yeah. I'll be like, give me 5 carries a game, 20 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, and then you're good.
Yeah.
What do you like about playing the running back position more than the defensive back position?
Just love scoring for real. Defensive back position, I'd say I can be a little more aggressive on that side of the ball because I like playing football aggressive.
You play any other sports? I know you run track. What do you do in track?
I do the 55-meter dash for indoor, and outdoor I do the 100-meter dash.
So I saw on Twitter the 55 indoor recently, right?
Yeah.
What was that, 6.3? Was that your goal?
Nah, that was my goal. I didn't get there though.
Is it maddening to you? Like, because I imagine that you're able to pretty much do whatever you want on the field, it seems like. When you set a goal like that and then don't hit it, how do you respond? What is the reaction when you don't reach that goal?
Just make me work harder. Like when you don't reach your goal, it just tell you got to work harder.
But you didn't reach the goal, but you still won the state championship by however many tenths of a second, right?
Yeah.
So it's like kind of a catch-22 because you feel like I should be 6'3", but everyone else is still at 6'7", and
yeah, it'd be like that.
Ryan Day, in his first year at Ohio State, obviously led the Buckeyes to the college football playoff. He has been vital in getting to know you as well in the last few months. What is your impression of what Ryan Day has done? What do you like about him from the conversations you've had? And what is his message for you as a potential recruit for Ohio State?
Yeah, he always tell me like how he love what I do on and off the field. We text a lot too. I got a pretty good relationship with Coach Day. One thing I like about him is how hype he is. Like you look at the videos when he hype his team up, it's just exciting. I love that about him.
Is that like a style that you're used to in high school? I mean, is Coach Irby that way? How does he handle?
Yeah, he gets us hype before a game.
Is it hard to be here in this? I mean, I don't want to say a small town, but I mean, you're outside Richmond. It's not an area in this high school where you've had a ton of Division I talent come through.
Yeah, it's hard, but for real, you just gotta stay to yourself sometimes because it can be a lot of negative things going on. Like it's a lot of shootings around here. Yeah, it's a lot of people that try to bring you down and lead you down the wrong path. So I just stay to myself, bro.
Is it good for you that, I mean, obviously the University of Virginia is an hour and a half away. Virginia Tech's in-state, North Carolina's close. But there's not like one school in this area. So like Donovan Edwards, for example, he lives 35 minutes outside of Ann Arbor in the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Everyone in his hometown expects him to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
So for him on the recruiting trail, it's got to be a little different for him than you, because I don't think everyone expects you to go to Virginia, or maybe there's not like a large push for you to go to Virginia. Do you find that there's less pressure for you as far as picking a school than Donovan, who you roomed with at the Under Armour Future 50? Like in just conversations with him, do you feel like, hey, it's kind of easier for me than some of these other guys?
Like staying close to home.
Like go wherever you want, really.
Like location doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I like UVA, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, all these close schools too. So it really doesn't matter wherever I go.
Your personality is kind of low key. So like, I mean, are you thinking like, hey, maybe a school that, we can be honest, there's different tiers of college football programs out there where, you have your Ohio States and your Clemsons and your Georgias that you're considering. And then you have other schools who are not to that point yet, where the campus may be a little smaller, a little more reserved. The football program maybe doesn't get all the attention that some of the other ones do. Do you have a preference at all in like what type of environment you want to be around in college?
Environment.
At Ohio State, for example, there's a 60 or 70 media people at every media availability, right?
Yeah.
It gets a little overwhelming at times. You are coming from an area where maybe the attention has been less.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that a draw to a place like North Carolina? I mean, or
I don't really focus on that type of things. I never really thought of it. But I do see like Ohio State does get a lot of media attention, and like UVA, Virginia Tech doesn't. But I'm not really focused on that.
I assume there's pros and cons for all these things, and then something, I guess, that you have to weigh into your decision.
Yeah.
Are there any schools that you know for a fact are going to get official visits at this point?
I know Oklahoma is. I got Texas later. I think I'm rescheduling that to May. I got Michigan and yeah, those three for sure.
So for Ohio State, the first visit you're taking is not an official visit; it's unofficial, right?
Yeah.
So for them, it's sort of huge, I guess, to go out there and put together a presentation for you to show you exactly what makes Ohio State the right fit for you.
Yeah.
What have you seen on other visits? Don't name names, but what have you seen that makes you go, hey, that is what I need at this school? Or is there one or two things where you've been like, hey, that is not for me? I mean, what are you looking for in a college?
What am I looking for in a college? Education. Education is important, and like how they develop you, not just on the field too, but off the field. Things like that. So.
Is there something with your recruitment? You're talking about Oklahoma and DeMarco Murray, who's now the running backs coach there.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good career, and NFL career. What do you see in the offenses that you're looking at? Oklahoma, Ohio State, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan. Is there like a type of offense that you're like, that's what I want to be around?
It depends on how you feature your running backs and things like that. Like, do you get them involved in the offense a lot? Like, I see most teams just like they feature their quarterbacks and receivers, things like that. They don't really feature their running backs, so that's important.
Got it. Well, look, man, I could talk all day. It's sort of what I do.
Yeah.
But I will let you get out of here. Thank you very much for your time. That's TreVeyon Henderson. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. This has been Birminology on Lettermen Row. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll talk to you again next time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and you know we got Buck IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.